Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on which part of the world you're coming from. Welcome to Nair On Air, all the way from down under Brisbane, Australia. I understand this broadcast is being telecasted through Australia, Asia Pacific, India, UAE, South Africa, Europe, and also, I was led to believe last week, in Hong Kong. That's very good. I welcome audience from all of those areas. I truly thank you for looking at what we are doing and appreciate your support in following us as we go through. Ladies and gentlemen, David Nair, as a peak performance coach, keynote speaker, author of a book titled IXL, Wired for Success. My key purpose in bringing such on-air conversations is to create a mindset shift, heart set shift, and a soul set shift in 1 million people, thereby lifting their lifestyle and that of the next generation, providing them with a legacy of hope. To me, hope is defined as HOPE, help other people evolve. The agenda in 2021 that I'm taking across the globe is to ensure we can provide you with that. And hopefully, by doing that, there will be an upliftment and empowerment with a lot of people that will be watching us. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not just select any speaker on stage. We scout the globe to get the best of the best who have done the walk before they do the talk. And today, we are in the process of bringing you one of the best speakers that we have had in the area that I'm talking to you about in recreation. And you will see this individual and gentleman shortly. The person comes with exceptional performance skilled in banking. Starting off with banking, he moved on to study human behavior, accredited in psychometric assessments with the MBTI and FIRO. Through that process, he then moved on to become a cricket umpire, a commentator, and for the last 10 years was a TV panelist, a voiceover artist, and an author titling a book called Right Under Your Nose. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to invite on board and welcome Mr. Giridharan. Thank you so much. Welcome, Mr. Giridharan. How are you?
Thank you, Dave. I'm fine. Thank you, David. And it's really great to communicate and get in touch with people around the world, Australia, South Africa, and wherever you are. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Probably in Australia, it's good night, close to good night. And
good night, actually.
Yeah. So, and as David says, we are all one big family spread across the world. Let's learn from each other. Let's help each other. And I think that's the mission.
Fabulous.
And let's really have hope.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Mr. Giridharan, can you please share with us, you started off with banking and then you shifted into human behavior. What caused this transition?
Yeah, it's something like this. You see, initially when I was young and then I got the job in banking, what actually happened was I was desperate to get a job. So I found an aptitude test, a bank recruiting people on the basis of aptitude test. So that's how I got into banking. Then as I started learning the nuances of banking, somewhere I understood that these figures meant nothing. These figures don't tell the whole tale. And behind the figures, behind the machines, which the computers or anything, actually lies a human being. And the human being is the most complex, most versatile, most creative, most capable machine or figure that you can ever come across. Yes. And I began to realize that, okay, you can make a plan, you can make a financial model based on the best financial principles, but actually they come to nothing before human ingenuity, human creativity. Stock markets crash just on the basis of some human behavior.
Yes. Yes.
So then I realized that's where the real pot of nectar lies, to understand, study, understand human behavior. And once
Right.
you dive into that pool of human behavior, you realize that it has got fathomless depth. You
Uh-huh.
keep swimming, you keep diving, you keep swimming. Every time you come across something new. I mean, it's not as if, no, okay, you think, oh, right, I've had a mastery. No, you do that, and then immediately it comes back to bite you and tell you that, guys, learn. You're still a student, you're never a master. That's something that's fascinated me about this whole business of studying human beings. You never
Fabulous.
ending.
Fabulous. Now, through that process, you also utilize, like anything else, unless I had a mentor who taught me this, what gets done gets measured. Now, unless you can measure some things, it's pointless going in that direction. So you obviously picked up psychometrics to help. How do you think it's helped you with human behavior?
I look at anything, you are absolutely right that anything measurement tells us whether we are moving in the right direction. No, and how much are we moving in the right direction? It is possible to say, some critics might say, does psychometrics measure absolute pinpoint accuracy? I would say no, not pinpoint accuracy, but it
Mm-hmm.
certainly gives you a trend and a direction in which you are moving.
Mm-hmm.
So psychometrics measures the presence, the absence, or the amount of a psychological variable that a person possesses. That is,
Right.
how intuitive are you?
Mm-hmm.
How do you tend to use data, or do you tend to use intuition? Are you more from the emotions, or are you more from the thought process? Do you get energy by getting involved with people, or do you get energy by spending time with yourself? Or is it
Mm-hmm.
a mix of both? Now, this
Mm-hmm.
how various personalities are there, as the MBTI would tell you. So the measurement through the psychometry gives us what exactly the personality is. And I'm very fond of giving this example. I think David has got too much of hair on his head. So, but then a person like me and men around the world, we all go bald. Some point or the other. I am. It's not visible in this, but I can tell you, I have very little hair over here, and just some hair in the top. So when a man goes bald, what happens is the action begins here at the crown. The hair starts thinning and receding around the crown. So others will tell you, like my wife told me, hey, Giri, you're going bald. I had to look at the mirror, and in front everything was fine. I said, what the bloody hell, you wives always will pick on your husband. You never see anything good in us. After some time, I realized actually the hair was thinning. Then I did a little of, gymnastics, take the hair from this side to this side to that side, and tell the hairdresser, you cut it in such a way that the bald patch doesn't come. Then it comes to a stage where you accept it. Yes, this is what it is. Now let's understand reality. Now, psychometrics is something like that. When we are changing, we are evolving, we are changing. You could change for the better, you could change for the worse, in the sense you've lost some of your strengths. If that's happening, we don't realize it.
Right.
Psychometrics is able to give us that warning that, hey, this is a change which is happening in you at the moment. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
reality check, a kind of a personality medical check. It's not a medical
Mm-hmm.
check, it's a personality check for you to tell you that today you are like this, whatever you were earlier, it's different right now. What we feel, and the neutral man is seeing it. This is where you are. So
Right.
now you want to be like this. I mean, any person can want to be in any different way. So would you want to be like this? So I think that's where the psychometry helps us a great deal in.
So true. Now, it's interesting you mentioned that what gets the measurement aspect of it, primarily because whenever I did my programs in NLP, did my programs in CBT and all the others, one of the key things that we were looking at is calibration. Now, when you calibrate a person's facial features, just like a doctor uses a stethoscope to measure certain things within the person, you're able to now pick up certain emotional tendency changes. And when that happens, you're able to then gauge and adapt to whatever you want to transmit to that person. And that's the power of what you're talking about. Now, if you could do that constantly, you can then actually not only build rapport with the individual, but you're able to negotiate or influence that person far better than if you were not able to. Is that where you're coming from with all of this psychometric measurements and the rest of it?
Yeah, in a sense, the psychometric shows some different people are different. Some would accept, say, an expert like David Nair saying it. For some quants don't matter. So they would accept it when you give examples. And
Right.
you tell them, well, we did this test on you, and this is what it says, and this is what it is. Or then, otherwise, you could make them play a game and then show the video recording of a game and say, look at your behavior here. So
Exactly.
some of them probably accept that. There are
Right.
others who want quantitates, who say, no, but what is it? I was always like this, something like that. So at that point, the measurement helps. And then
Right.
when the person is beginning to improve, is he actually improving? And is he going in the right direction? Then again, the psychometrics helps us when we get to see the values. Just like, medical, somebody has higher sugar, then he goes through a diet and other exercise. After some time, then it shows, yes, the sugar is going in the right direction. So whatever lifestyle changes he has done, it's for the better. Very
Right.
similar thing on the personality basis is what the psychometrics help.
Fabulous. Fabulous. Now, how would you turn around and look at a person and say that they could plan that improvement or that performance scaling up? How would you go about doing that?
Yeah. Now, the things that we normally, what I normally do is, first I want to know from the person, what does he want himself to be after 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
I tell him, you visualize yourself after 5 years because your ambitions, your aspirations are your own. I cannot be the person to say that I want you to be like this after 5 years. It's yours.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be an author, you want to be a broadcaster, whatever you want to be. It's your own take on the situation. Once
Mm-hmm.
you have put your future in place, then we work down backwards to see what are the competencies that a man, excuse me, or a woman for that matter. I'm sorry to use the word man. I mean, for any person here, he or woman or woman, he or she, would probably need to then zero in on what are the competencies required to reach that position. Maybe we
Right.
could help in action because we have seen others succeeding. Then have a look, where are we vis-a-vis each of it?
Right.
And then comes the planning towards it. The measurement psychometry does measure and tell you where you are. And then we make a plan. Now, I'm very fond of a particular quadrant which I use.
Mm-hmm.
That quadrant, what I do, I divide strength on one side and weakness on the other. Strength in itself is divided into two parts.
Right.
Strength is to be maintained and strength to be improved. On the other side, it is weakness to be improved upon up to a threshold and weakness to be ignored. My philosophy is something like this, David, that we need to spend 80% of our time on our strengths. 45% on improving what you're already good at. You are good at today in something, but that might not be good enough for you when you're scaling up. I mean, you're maybe good enough at the regional level or the zonal level. You want to be nationally good for that. You want to be internationally good. So you're very strong in certain areas, but still you need to work that further. So I believe strengths to be improved, 45% of your resources, time, your effort, your money, everything should be towards those strengths which you want to improve.
Right.
35% of your resources should be on those strengths that you want to maintain, because it doesn't remain with you all the time. You have to hone it, you have to practice it, you have to keep it. I mean, today
Right.
you're a very good public speaker. You may not be tomorrow. You're very learned in an area today. You may not be if you don't keep updating yourself. So 35% of the resources should be towards maintenance of your strengths. So that makes 80% to leveraging on the strength. I believe 20% should be on those weaknesses on which, you need to know something to reach a threshold level. Like one of my weaknesses used to be the computers. So even today, no great shakes at it, but I've improved to an extent that I can handle them. I can handle them. So that's about it. So, and the last quadrant which I say is that, well, those are those weaknesses that you be aware of them, but really don't need to work on them, because a man cannot be without weaknesses. If that is the case, you would be in a temple or a church or a mosque or any such place. You'd be worshipped. We wouldn't be here. So don't bother to those weaknesses which won't impact you in reaching where you want to reach. So that's the whole process by which I try to guide the people along.
Fabulous. That's fantastic. You know something, we have not connected until this week to have this interview with you, but you have basically summed up certain segments of this book that I wrote last year. And what you're talking about is actually coming through in how people need to scale their quadrants and look at where and what they should do on a regular basis to be at what I call the cutting edge, and thereby performing at their peak performance. Now, this opens up a whole domain for us now, because you as a cricketing umpire and a commentator can now talk a little bit about cutting edge values that we talk about, principles that a person needs to innately build such that it becomes unconscious consciousness, and thereby providing the results they want. Can you now talk about, get into the segment of the some interesting stories that you would have encountered whilst on the cricket arena?
I'll do that, but before, I'll just make a small point that since both of us seem to be on the same page,
yes,
now usually two people agree, very much agree on something, then I guess there are two sayings. One is great minds think alike, and the other, they say fools seldom differ. I don't know which is it between David and me. So all of you who are out there watching the show, take your pick. Which of the two it is?
I will go for the former, not the latter. Okay.
I would love with the former, but then those who watch us, sure, take your pick.
Great. Let's move on into the cricket arena. I really want to dwell into this and the performance excellence that you talk about. Please, come on.
Yeah, I'll come to that. Now, this is something which I would like to tell people also. See, there are always certain things that we love. Now, cricket is something that's somewhere, something which, is a part of me. In Australia, probably South Africa or Australia, you can also relate to cricket. Maybe not that much in the US, but cricket was a part of me. But what I realized was I never had the athletic capability to really go far in cricket. Right. That's something which I realized when I was 17 or 18. Till that time, I was also in a dream world, la la land, as they say, where I was thinking that I would be the next Neil Gavaskar or something like that. So then I realized at that point of time, no, it doesn't work. At 18, I realized, no, not possible for me to anymore become a cricketer or go anywhere in cricket. But then I wanted to be there with my passion. That's when I started standing in the nets as an umpire. The cricketers would practice in the nets, and they wanted an umpire somewhere, and I would stand. And I got connected to the game. Then I went for the umpiring exam and I became an umpire. So what I want to say over here is, when we love something, don't think of the limitation. Don't think that, the way that I think of myself and maybe many others, that it did not come to me that, yes, I don't have an athletic talent. That negative part of the weakness was not the thing that's going to take me away from my love and my passion. I thought, yes, I can be an umpire and be connected to the game. So to many who miss one bus, remember, there are many other buses out there. So don't despair. You're going to be connected to your love in a different way and probably more enjoyable. And umpires last much longer than cricketers. So that's another thing. So you can very well do. And now you're coming to, and in umpiring, what actually happens is, one of the things that happen, especially in umpiring, is you see the emotions of cricketers going a great deal. Most of them know that, an umpire's decision can make or mar their careers. Now, of course, we have the TV to help. But when I was out there, in the initial years at least, we had no support from technology. So it had to be you and you yourself.
Yes.
But more than the decisions, what I found difficult was to sort out whenever incidents came there. That is when your personality is tested. And I will tell you a very interesting and humorous incident as well. It was we have a lot of leagues, trophy and championships. It was in
Yes.
Mumbai. They call it the Anandji Dosa Trophy. Anandji Dosa was a great scorer. So, and his handwriting would be better than any computer, I can tell you. When he wrote something, even the computer printout is not as clear as Anandji Dosa's hand would be. So there's a whole tournament after him. So in one of the tournaments that happened, I don't want to name the cricketers, but they were all those who played for India, fringe cricketers who nevertheless played for India. So I was the umpire in that match. The batsman, he got a glove and it went through to the keeper. And usually, and again, umpires have a teamwork. The umpire, square leg umpire and the main umpire do look at each other and take soft signals from each other. Right. This was before the TV era. So my umpire colleague at the square leg, he indicated to me, yes, he also thought it had probably clipped the glove. So I raised the dreaded finger. The batsman, for whatsoever reason, no batsman ever thinks he have got an edge. Unless if it's a leg before decision, he thinks he got an edge. If it's a caught, he will think he never got the edge. So he didn't think he got the edge. So he refused to leave the field. So I went forward and showed him the finger again to tell him, well, you son, go, you're on your way out. You've been declared out. He wouldn't go even after that. The bowling side, the bowler obligingly told me, sir, shall I pick him up and throw him out? I mean, he was only waiting to have another showdown. And I just ignored that. That's another thing that we learn in umpiring. You ignore a lot of things that you said, a lot of noises to be shut out. In life as well, a lot of people will tell you, you can't do this, you're not capable of this, it's too difficult for you. Shut that noise, just as we do in umpiring. We shut out all the noise when they say. So then I again went about to him and I said, you have been declared out, please leave. He sat down the pitch. Now, usually when people do that, we need to call the marshal. But both umpires have to agree to that you call a marshal and pull him because the guy is not going. So I went to my colleague and I told him that, what shall we call the marshals? What do we do? We have never faced such a situation. And then he said, well, the problem is yours, not mine. You handle it. Wow. Which I thought was not done. It was a joint problem. But nonetheless, I walked back and I said, I declared it as over. I said, this is over. I told the scorer, the over is over, done. And then the scorer told me, sir, only 3 balls have been done. I said, no, over. And I told my colleague, the square-leg person, I said, I've declared it over now. The problem is yours. Because you're coming here. That's when he realized that, yes, this can be played. Then we told the batsman there, both of us approached the batsman and said, see, if you don't go, each one of us will declare over one after the other. Then all your 50 overs are done. That's where you are. So it's up to you. You don't want to leave, you're not going to do anything. Your innings is over at this stage. That's when, for the non-striker, the reality hit him. He said, sorry, sir. And then he told him, you go. So that's where I realized, that if you've got to get people to do, then you have to make them experience. You tell them, you show them, it doesn't matter. The moment they experience something, immediately the transformation comes. So that's a thing that I learned. And whenever, we should be together. I always believe that colleagues should stick to each other. Otherwise, the problem which we may think that it is the colleague's problem today, it's not going to be. The fire in the neighborhood will soon come onto your home. So I think it's another thing I learned over there.
The number of real life situations and cases that are being shown, not only in sport, but in every aspect of our life, is learned, and most of us do not apply that. Like what you're just sharing, your colleagues' non-collaborative approach when it came to making a decision. But it's only when you take the stance can you then look at, okay, I'm going this way, whether I make the right decision or wrong decision. But you were lucky enough to do that because of your experience. Now, how many people lack that? You see, one of my gurus tell me this, it's in moments of decision that destiny is shaped. In moments of decision, outcomes are shaped. So unless you have had the experience or anyone doing it, it's pointless trying to drive for an outcome if you do not know the direction you're going. And this is one of the key things that I keep telling a lot of my participants, my audiences. It's important that you keep practicing till perfection is achieved. You don't just try to wing it. And many try to wing it at one swing. Can you imagine Sachin Tendulkar coming in without any practice and swinging at the ball, expecting 100 runs? No way. And this is the point. We need to get our people to understand there are important things that we have to practice for perfection. I have a guru, I have a mentor who's currently doing a lot of coaching. And he most says, he's lucky. Look at what he's doing today. But he went through 25 years of building him to get to the position that he is in today. But most lose perspective of that. And they don't see that. And this is why I try my best to bring as many people from different areas to slice the cake differently so people can see. It is not just one thing I can go and wing it and hope to come out a multi-millionaire or multi-billionaire. I had some people who were telling me, I want to be a crorepati in 1 year. Now, they've not even done any work for it. Do you understand? And this is where this psyche needs to be looked at. Moving on from there. By the way, when we're talking about cricket, Greg Chappell, have you followed his movements from Australia? His underarm movements?
Yes,
Would you like to comment on that? Because I think some of the new audience would appreciate that underarm movement.
I would, the thing that Greg Chappell said after the incident, I think what happened with that underarm incident is, unfortunately, too many things got caught up with that incident per se. And he was abused, ridiculed, riled, and a lot of things. But the thing that he said afterwards, after the incident, when he reflected on it, that is something which came to me as some kind of a learning. What he said was, he said that he was not prepared for the pressures that the Australian captain was going to have in a media world. Before that, there was no media. So there was now a media world. He says he lost count of the overs. At the 40th over, he thought he wanted to go back, not play the remaining match. They just didn't want to play. They lost count. Even the basic arithmetic, they were not able to do. So what I would like to say, that's something which he has said. So there are two things which he said and which I would like to certainly bring about. One thing is that when we are stressed, you can't do the things even that you're very good at.
Yes.
So all of us should know at what point we need a respite or a rest. You're not a machine who will keep on running. Even a machine needs to be put off at some time for oiling or some maintenance. So it's important for us to take that rest just before you're about to break down, which is something which didn't happen, which Greg Chappell couldn't take. And that rest can be both mental and physical. A lot of us, ignore the mental exhaustion. You're running 3 miles, the body tells you you're physically exhausted. So you take the rest. But mentally, many times, you're also mentally exhausted because you're putting everything. After all, David must be putting a great deal of his concentration, mind, effort, research when you're broadcasting the show. So you're doing many. At some point, it will take a toll on your concentration and your mental resources. That's a point we need to take a break. That's one thing that Greg Chappell told us with that underarm incident. The second thing which he said was, he said, I should have asked for help long before I went to ask for. The second thing which I want to say, that you have got coaches around the world, you've got people like David Nair and many others like that, who are going to help people on the way to come out of any problem that they have and to achieve. So one should not be shy of asking for help. Rick Chapel was an Australian captain, a great Australian grade, and he had reached a level even at that stage. But he realized at that point of time that maybe he should have asked for psychological help or some kind of a thing. Had he done that before the incident, probably the incident wouldn't have happened. So more than the incident, it's the learning that we get from the incident which
exactly. And this is the key element, but most don't realize that the element of learning, and this advice came to me from my dad. He said, the day you stop learning is the day you die. And most don't understand.
I think beautifully put. I think that's very beautifully put.
And so the key element here is when Greg did that, a lot of people thought, oh, look at what he's done, but they never understood the background to it, and never understood what the outcome that he was trying to drive and where he was. Now, when you mentioned that, I alert you, and you have listened to Richard Bernstein, the blind judge that we had on the show about 2 weeks ago. Now, Richard goes through the same mental tenacity to get not just his cases, but to get things out so he can then perform and give the right judgment rather than putting somebody in jail or putting them on the gas chamber. Do you understand? And this is where people miss this. When you have your back to the wall, that's when you got to pull all your resources. But rather than wait till then, why not practice on a regular basis? So as you said, when you want to call on your strength, you are there already with it. Your mental tenacity to bounce back, your resilience is there. But to get that, you need to practice daily, regularly, just like any cricketer, just like any sports person, just like the lady called Aarti, who I had brought, a triathlete, who I had brought on this platform about 5 weeks ago. And she made the same comment. She said, sir, one of the things that got me to go through that endurance of winning that gold medal was when I had a sting from, what do you call that? Not a starfish, but a stingray. I still continued with the race and won a medal because my mind was psyched for it. My body had given up, but my mind was psyched for it. I asked the question, how many of us live life like that? That's the passion I'm asking people to look for. Do you understand? And when you have that passion, my God, everything will just go for you. It'll fall in your favor, not against you. I'm sorry to take off, but I need to continue with your conversation.
I think, no, it's a fabulous discussion, David. Please don't hold yourself back. It's a fabulous discussion.
Thank you. Hey, listen, moving on from cricket, I would like to sort of share your thoughts on how did you become a good commentator? From banking and through to cricket, now into being on the commentary box. How did you get that?
I'll tell you something here, David. Now you said years of practice. So yes. I had years or decades of practice as a commentator in my home. What I would do is I'd put the TV on. I would listen to, rather in the radio era, I would listen to radio. I would listen to the ABC. Early morning, I would listen to those commentators, Jim Maxwell and Alan McGillray. I would listen to them early in the morning because before going to school, even in my school days, before going to school, I could listen to them. Right. And on holidays, I would listen to the Indian commentators on Indian TV. At times in the evening, I would listen to the BBC because the way the time difference was, I would listen to the radio. After that, I would go to the ground where some other boys were playing, and I would be the imaginary commentator. So I would be so after that, even when I landed my job in the banking and everywhere, I would put on the TV, see that, I would listen, and then I would keep on giving commentary. So by the time I when I went for the audition, I had probably put in, I don't know how many hours of commentary practice behind me when I went for the audition. So it came out very naturally. It's not as if I got the job and then I started doing it. I was practicing it, practicing, even before I had a mic in my hand. So the mic came, all I had to know was to learn how to use the mic. That is it.
Right.
the gear that you have, the
Yes.
earphone and the mic. Oh, I only needed to know that because I was practicing. What you said just now is exactly the point. And even today, I do that. I see boys on the field. I give my commentary now because I'm known as a commentator. They like it. They say, please give, uncle, please give. So I give them. So that's the way I'm practicing all the time. The same philosophy which I said at that point of time, a strength that you have shouldn't be lost.
Right.
So,
Right.
so it shouldn't be lost. We have to practice. See the TV, give a commentary. Go there, give a commentary. Wherever you get time. And what I found, David, just to relate to the passion, when you love something, you find the time. In all my schedule, I can squeeze time to still practice my commentary. I don't get time to pay my electricity bill, which I should be able to do sitting with my mobile. I say I don't have time for it. My schedule is busy, but I find time there. So that's what it is. When you love something, you will squeeze up the time. When you think something is, why have I got to do that? You will have the excuse for not doing it. I'm very notorious for paying my bills late. And the excuse is, I'm doing so many things, I'm a little busy, but then when you get time for all this, why can't you do that?
Right.
So I think
Excellent.
that's where all the question comes.
On the commentary box, were there situations in which you had your back to the wall and you were trying to think, what will I, how will I, when will I respond? Would you like to share one or two instances of that, please?
Yeah, there are times when I have been shown up as a fool in the commentator's box. Again, what I learned is, the day, I think just to take from your saying, the day you stop learning is the day you die, or that's the same thing. The day you believe that you have learned everything, that complacency sets in, that's the day you need a whack. You need a whack on your head or a slap on your cheek. Something is required every now and then for us. Now, I remember two occasions I'll tell you. One was the semi-final of the Champions Trophy in 2017. England and Pakistan were playing that match.
Right.
So it appeared as if England were the hot favorites to win that match because it was at Birmingham. And what had happened the previous day, I had watched a show in which we had Imran Khan, Wasim Akram, Bakar Yunus, and Zahir Khan. All of them said that, reverse swing is just not possible because the wickets are green, 2 new balls are being played, so there's no reverse swing on. Reverse swing is out of the equation as far as this tournament is concerned. When 4 of the greats have said it, so you don't go against them. I said that 4 or 5 times on air, that reverse swing is not a factor, reverse swing is not a factor, complacent, not watching what's happening just because they have said, and I thought, you can say it. And it so happened, Hassan Ali started reverse swinging it all over the place. I was looking a fool when I said that it's not going to reverse swing, it's not going to be a factor. And in the following 2-3 overs, 2 wickets fall to it, and England actually faltered from 128 for 2, they were collapsed to 211. And the interesting part was, Hassan Ali was asked after the match, how the hell did you reverse swing when no one else could get it? And with all this, and the guy doesn't speak much of English, he had to speak in Urdu. He said, I had no idea that anyone said that you can't do. I thought this is Peshawar. The way it is Peshawar, I bowl here. So in my mind, I thought I could do it. So that was a real learning, we think you write off somebody, you say that, well, he can't do it, he has got these limitations, like that. Because in his mind, he thinks differently. He thinks he can do it. He can do it. He certainly could do it. That day I learned that don't relax. Always keep learning. Always keep watching.
And one of the, and a major key thing out of that also is to ensure we shield ourselves against some of those noise that you talk about. And that's what happened to that individual. He didn't listen. He did not know what was happening out there. So he just went and did his best. And in so doing, excelled.
That's, in fact, exactly. I think that's exactly the way you put it. The other thing which I've always liked in the commentators box is something that I would like to share with others. There's a great teamwork which goes on inside. Most people hear the commentator. You would think that any commentator that, well, he has a good grasp of the game, he has a good voice, but actually there's a teamwork going on. How it happens is, probably elsewhere people might speak in the same language. In Australia, it could be two English commentators. In India, we have a Hindi commentator and an English commentator. So the two of us sit. In between, we have a scorer.
Right.
And behind, we have a statistician. So the scorer is the one who has got the jersey numbers of the players, and he'll quickly tell us. He'll spot that the jersey number 26 is running behind the ball, and he will tell us jersey number 26 is Cameron Green. I mean, Cameron Green is a new cricketer who made his debut. We have not been able to identify. He'll tell us immediately that's Cameron Green. I mean, he sees that. That's his job to tell us. And when we say that Cameron Green at point is fielding, people might be thinking that how these guys are able to identify everyone. No, we aren't identifying. Our team member who is behind the scene is the one who is providing us the information. And when we tell about the records that are tumbling, that he's just 4 runs away from this milestone, it's the statistician behind us who comes up and keeps telling us that with this wicket or with this shot or with this catch, this milestone has come. So it's a teamwork totally. And as you said, backs to the wall, there are times when your throat is parched, you're coughing too much, you want a break, your fellow commentator will take over at that point of time and step in for you. You do it for him or her when that is required. There are other times when, like this, you say something a little silly because sometimes you are not able to see what has happened and you have said something wrong. So it is the colleague commentator who will bail you out by saying something, forging a discussion, and then allowing you to rectify yourself. Right. So the things always happen. So what I learned is it's the teamwork which works. Inside the box, it's the team.
I also want to drill down on this aspect of commentary, because there's a lot of people who fear the stage. Now, we're not on stage here. We are behind talking, but there's a lot who are fearful of doing that. You got past your fear from your earlier stages of practice. What advice could you give to people who have not practiced? Let's say they have done the practice, but who have gone to a stage where they still hold back and they're fearful for whatever reason. All they need is a little bit of a nudge. What could you give them as a piece of advice that they can work on?
I think one is I take it from what you have said earlier in the day itself, that shut the noise from the head. So when you are on stage, you are there because you are the expert and you are better than many others who are watching you. The moment you're on stage, you're better than all those who have come to watch you.
Right.
So have that confidence. So have no fears. You're good enough. That's why you're there. And even the best make mistakes. So you've made a mistake. Take it out of your mind. Do the best that you can for the remaining 99% of the endeavor. It's like this, just to take the cricketing analogy. The first ball you're being hit for a 4, but then you have a whole day to bowl.
Yes.
So it's not as if the day is over because the batsman clubbed you for a boundary of the first ball.
Right.
So you've got the whole day. Never mind. So, but then you're out there because you're better than a whole lot of people. So when you're going on stage, tell yourself that, yes, I am here. I'm good enough. Made a mistake. Never mind. From here on, it's going to be my show. Made 2 mistakes. No props. From here on, my show.
Right.
So have that. Somewhere I believe that we need to learn to know how to calm yourself. That's an exercise each one must learn. In every situation, I find that when you have your back to the wall, it is important that you calm yourself down at that stage. And when you calm yourself down, that's when you're in the zone. I mean, I believe Glenn McGrath, the legendary Australian quick, uses that word, in the zone. Yes. So for a very fast bowler, he says he calms himself down whenever he thinks that now when he bowls to a batsman like Lara or Tendulkar, he says he's at his calmest. Because that's when he is able to deliver everything best. He thinks he has to outwit the best. He understands that. He understands he can't make a mistake. He has to be on the money 100%. So these calming things have to be done on the move. You don't have time to lie down and meditate or which. So we have to find our own ways of calming ourselves down from any stress that comes. I have one method which I do. I don't know. I can just share the method. It's for each one.
Really?
What I do is I do a reverse counting from 200 minus. I do like this: 200 minus 2, 200 then it becomes 198 minus 3, 195. So what happens is that focuses my mind to work a little. Forward counting you can do even in half asleep. Reverse counting, you're going to use some element of your mind to concentrate. That takes the rage away, the emotion away, brings the logic back into contention and fray. From then on, you're thinking logically, and then you're on your way to resolve the situation. You're out of the back to wall situation. That's the technique I use. Anyone could have the technique. So
fabulous. Reverse counting. That's fabulous. Very good. Moving on from commentary, you now did a lot of voiceovers. What did you see you had to do to master that skill from commentary to becoming a voiceover?
Surprisingly, I first thought, that's another thing that happened. People did approach me when you do commentary, then there are advertisers also. There are a lot of sponsors around. So some of them said, you've got a good voice and why don't you come? Now, at that stage, again, what's another learning, I again underestimated the skills and the practice required in voicing. I took it a little lightly, but then I came a cropper in my initial voiceovers. It is then when I realized that this has a different skill set. Maybe the voice is a base, but there are a lot of other things involved. Two things which a voiceover artist requires, which I didn't have at that time, before I later began to do. One is we have to be empathetic, in the sense you have to get into the skin of the character for whom you're dubbing or voicing. I have done an ad in which I am acting as a parrot. So you have got to be a parrot. Whatever voicing you're doing for whichever situation, you've got to get into the skin of that character. So that's an important element. In commentary, you're not getting into the skin of anyone. You are describing what is happening. Here, the challenge is different. You got to get into the skin of the character. You have to sound like that person. He's angry means you have to be angry. In an ad voiceover, it's an angry dad telling the son, no, study right now. Or it's a boy was just seeing a beautiful girl and then, he's head over heels. So you have to bring that emotion there. So you get the skin of the character. The second thing is the timing, which again, needs a lot of take and retake, a lot of concentration and focus. I realize you need explosive concentration and focus in voicing because, the timing is like this. When the thing comes, they say 40 paisa a minute. When the caption comes, your voice should be synchronizing with that. That's the beauty of the voiceover. It can't be behind or in front, then it doesn't work. So that synchrony which you have to bring, it's a kind of a symphony that you bring with the written word, the tune, and your voice. So that is a different kind of teamwork that has to be brought. And that again required, I in fact signed in for a course. At the age of 49, I signed in for a course on voicing because I realized that I had to learn. And this was not something that I could do without learning. I went to a professional and I learned from him. I practiced and I focused. I learned this explosive focus which is required, which is not required in commentary. It's sustained focus, not explosive. Here you need explosive focus. I learned that. And that's how.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about sustained focus and explosive focus, please? Just so the audience can get a grasp of that and they can understand the gap we're talking about.
Yeah. See, in commentary, what happens, you speak for the entire day. So it is like a marathon. So what you do, and you have a respite also in between because you have a colleague. So who backs up for you. So therefore, you have to sustain yourself for the duration of because cricket is an extremely long game. So you have to be, and you can't miss a ball. So basically, you have to be concentrating for long periods of time. and find the right words to say it. So that's a different challenge. So it's like running a marathon. Whereas in a voicing, it's a minute, an ad, when you give a voiceover for an ad, it's a minute or two. And a lot of things happen in that minute or two, and you don't have anyone backing you up. So therefore, it is like, at the point when you're facing a Brett Lee's ball, at that very moment, you have to be completely at that focus. Otherwise, your head will go. So the concentration has to be laser, but for a very small amount of time. In voicing, there your concentration need not be laser. It's got to be good, but not pinpoint and laser, but for an extended period of time. So you have two different focuses required for two different responsibilities, skills, and professions.
Do you actually spend time practicing this? Because if you're doing voiceovers, you focus on certain way, and then how often do you need to practice to get that out and going? And in the commentary, your focus is spread, therefore your practice is slightly different. Or do you just practice the content and the deliverables and then go on stage?
No, I do practice my voice itself in the morning. Often I get up and I do some voice exercises. So I do the deep breathing, I do some voice exercises, and I do a lot of gargling, drink sip hot water, so that keeps the throat and everything generally in order. And this focusing, I do one exercise of focusing. For this, I started after the voice came. I look at the watch, second needle of the watch for 2 continuous minutes. So that gives you explosive focus. Keep your thoughts away, just see the needle for 2. So I do that practice to get that. I learned, I've seen, one of our best fielders, Mohammad Azharuddin, used to say that he used to throw the ball at an uneven ball. Because it's an uneven ball, it can go anywhere. So that's where the anticipation gets better. So you have to practice for all that. So I practice for my explosive.
I hope you see where I'm coming from with this, Giri, because today the art of mastery is, let me have a quick go at it and I hope I get success, as opposed to focusing on small shifts and keep practicing on that small shift for a period of time. Small shifts generate massive gains. That's how I look at philosophy in life. And many don't. They think, I don't need to do that, or it'll come, as opposed to the mastery comes when you focus on the small shifts. And here we talked on an element of focus for 2 different things. And each of them we had found was powerful when we practiced it differently. And the delivery came out in the same manner.
I think I couldn't agree with you more. The turning point in any match or anything, as they say in sports, the key moments have to be won. The key moments are won only. That is where the shift that I think you've got to win that shift moment. Otherwise, you never cross the line. You're always on this side of the line then. You're not on the right side then. You're on the wrong side then.
Yeah. So true.
So I cannot agree with you more there, that shift. And I think probably much of the coaching is also done on equipping people to handle that shift. I think that's where both of us come.
That's where the skill of coaching comes in. Yes, very true. Question again, moving on from voiceover, as a TV panelist now, you're moving into that domain. You've got a wide width of exposure in this frontier. How was that different to commentary?
Well, I think the TV panelist, as a commentator, again, I find one advantage as a TV panelist. One is that your focus needs to be lesser. It is less tiring, because commentary is, radio commentary is incessant, and you keep talking, and but the challenge that comes is, in commentary, you have something in front of your eyes. You're describing an event, an action which is happening.
Right.
A TV panelist has to add depth to the existing analysis, because there's an anchor who puts across what could be the views of an ordinary person, the man on the street.
Right.
Now, how do you add depth to the views which is expressed by many without being controversial? Is the challenge for the TV panelist.
Right. Very true.
And at the end, there must be a value addition. So there has to be a TV addition. A TV panelist has to give a value addition in every word that she speaks.
Right. And that value addition comes collaboratively, or does it come with your skill and your knowledge and your thrust forward?
I think a combination of both.
Excellent.
A combination of both is how I do it.
Coming down, as we're running short of time, I just want to spend some time with your book. You've actually authored a book. Would you like to share that and a little bit of your journey through that book, please? Yeah. Yes. Fabulous. What's the nutshell of the book?
This book is a howdone-it. So let me tell you, it will. There are, what I thought was, I kept thinking that when I travel, I used to think that how can I pose certain questions which everyone will find very difficult to answer. So a man is murdered twice at the same time. How is that possible? And that too in a busy street.
Right.
So how is that possible? That's the first thing. Second, two persons drink from the same glass, from the same glass at the same time in front of 100 people. One dies, the other doesn't. So how is that possible? Third, a man enters a hotel room, sips orange juice, dies of cyanide poisoning immediately. No one could have entered that room, but the orange juice doesn't have any cyanide. So where did the cyanide come from? So it is a howdone-it. So the answers at the end you will find are very, very simple. When you read, you will find that the answers are simple at the same time, very interesting. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about this book was the field research which I did. To many out there in different parts of the world, they think India is a land of snake charmers. Let me tell you, not many Indians of this generation have any idea about a snake charmer. They haven't seen one. I also had no idea of what they do. So I spent time with a snake charmer. I saw him train the snakes. That was fascinating. See him train the snake, see him milk a snake's venom, see him handle it, seeing him caring for them. And that's an important part of my mystery. The three questions which are there, the answer to one of them comes from this interaction which I had with the snake charmer. So I saw the life that he did, that he leads, the difficult, very brush with death that he has on a daily basis, and the wealth of knowledge that he has an offer. So some of it is there. So there's a lot of human behavior involved in this. Many of the things that we discussed about human behavior, a number of them do come into this book, apart from the fact that it's a murder mystery and a detective one. I hope many of you who are listening to it buy this book. It's available on Amazon. And you can't put it down once you start reading it.
Fabulous. Well, how was your journey writing that book? You want to share that aspect? What was your trials and tribulations as you wrote that book?
The main problem here was, I had to consult a few people because I had to go to morgues and see how dead bodies are kept. I needed to talk to doctors because I had to get the medical facts right. I needed to go to the police to know that the investigation, this is how it is done. Now, these things, and then of course the snake charmer was also there. So these things, none of these people are available at the same time. It's very difficult to get them. It's even more difficult to make them talk because different people have different fears in their mind. The snake charmer was scared. He thought I'm an environmentalist and I would put an end to his trade. So he wouldn't talk to me. I had to convince him that really it isn't anything, that I have come here to appreciate you, not to put an end to your career. the mock people were wondering whether he's a journalist and, whether he's going to take some photographs from here and then make it a scandalous or something like that. So getting people to trust you and talk to you and tell you about some of what happens in their trade was a very difficult thing to do while writing this novel. The other thing is that keeping the things in your mind, getting a lot of things, then weaving them into a story. Into a story, that was another thing, which was another challenge to do. But then the challenge of doing something new. I've written a few articles on cricket and on human behavior, but a story, that was a new challenge. So, and like you say, you shouldn't stop learning. So I wanted to learn to write.
Closing in on everything that we spoke today, could you share with the audience, in a nutshell, a couple of key points as a takeaway that they could focus on so they could master whatever area, whatever domain they are stretching for their expertise? What do you think it could be?
Well, I will say two things. Each one of you is a marvel made differently. So have confidence in yourself, be proud of yourself. Two, a winner never quits, a quitter never wins. That's the second part of it. And when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But to get going in tough times, you need to practice a lot. So prepare for the tough times. The tough times will be for a minute, but that 1 minute, you have got to be tougher than someone else or the situation. Then the mastery comes, and after that, you will have a smooth ride.
Fabulous, fabulous. The point you made on point 3 is so relevant, especially following our pandemic and our COVID-19 and lockdowns and all of that in different parts of the world. And many people have been tested to the fullest in their mental resilience. And those that were the quick operators who never practice certain things that we talk about in daily rituals are the ones that are finding it difficult to bounce back. It's not so much whether you can do something, it's your rate at which you bounce back. Like in a basketball, NBL basketball, you'll be talking about sport in an NBL basketball. Unless the ball is fully blown up, it will not bounce back for you to be able to throw it and into the ring. Now, most of us don't have that tenacity to practice unless we are taught it and unless we have a coach for it. And this is why I keep telling a lot of people, one of the key things is your daily rituals. You also spoke about it. In the morning, you used to listen before you could master that commentary. That daily ritual in the morning is taboo. You cannot drop it. Ladies and gentlemen, that's one advice. Here is a guy who has been working with the cricketers, not coaching, a bigger part, but commenting on them, and at the same time being an umpire with them. And I've been in the industry for over 3 decades. We talk about mastery comes with you learning this skill. For have that mental resilience to bounce back. NBL basketball. Giri, appreciate your time. Really thank you for coming online. We will again connect offline and have a chat further. But thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a good afternoon.
Pleasure. My pleasure, David. My pleasure.
Take care. Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.